Welcome back to Rally DNA in association once again with our kind sponsors, Slip and Grip Automotive. Slip and Grip Automotive are a UK-based motorsport events organizer and members club. They host various event types throughout the year at a number of UK locations, including track days, sprints, tarmac rally testing, and social events. They're the sole organisers for the Bont Rally stage in Mid Wales, a great tarmac stage providing great prep for crews before tarmac rallies in the UK, Ireland, or further afield. To find out more, visit www.slipandgripautomotive.co.uk, the link of which is in the description of this episode below, and make sure to follow them on Instagram and Facebook. We are back with a guest once again, as joining Jamie and I this week is Finnish professional rally driver turned driving coach, Kristian Sohlberg. Kristian is fresh from working in his capacity as a coach at the Central European Rally, aiding Gus Greensmith and Jonas Anderson to a fourth place finish in WRC2. You've been traveling all over the world this year, Kristian, and you're back home now for a well-deserved break. Welcome along.
Thanks very much for having me. It's very interesting to join this program and have a chat with you guys.
Thanks so much for giving us your time.
Exactly that. Yes. So, Kristian, if it's all right, we'll go back to the beginning of your formative rally career, if that's okay.
Yep.
Am I correct in saying that both your father and your brother were involved in rallying? And if that's the case, when you were growing up, how much of a role did that play in influencing your own decision to get involved?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My father was the president of Finnish ASN for 27 years. He was a quite big member of FIA in the World Council, and also in Formula One, being a referee, a steward, and then also he was in charge of the World Rally Commission in the last years of his career. So yeah, he's been a big part. And my brother, obviously, he did rallying as well. He was British champion 90, I think, Group N. So yeah, obviously motorsport and horses has been something that our family has always been part of, and rally was quite clear decision quite young. I drove a rally car first time when I was 10. So yeah, I started quite young, a little bit earlier than Kalle, but my career didn't maybe go as I hoped, and there are some reasons for that, but maybe we can have a chat about these as well now.
Thank you. What was the rally car you drove when you were 10? Can you remember?
Yeah, I can. It was a VW Beetle, like a rallycross car, a real wheel drive car, and we were driving on an ice field. You might know a driver called Sebastian Lindholm.
Yeah, yes,
whose son Emil is now driving. So my father was a sponsor of Sebastian's career when he started, or when he was sort of trying to break through his international career. My father was sponsoring Sebastian, so we were in winter driving on his field that was iced, and yeah, that's when I first time drove a rally car.
Incredible.
You've been associated with Mitsubishi rally cars from the kind of very beginning of your career, Kristian. Was this kind of a coincidence, or how did that relationship start off? Because you were with them quite early and right up along, or did you work with a Mitsubishi dealer in Finland early on, or how did that come about?
I think it all started because of Tommi Mäkinen and Lasse Lampi. Obviously, I started with different cars, but then already 2000, I moved to driving a Group and Mitsubishi, and I sort of was following really closely already 99, actually, Mitsubishi Rally at Europe when they were operating in Finland or Sweden. I went to all the tests. I knew Tommy at the time. I knew Lasse at the time. So I was sort of not the protege, but they invited me to Monte Carlo to do spare gravel notes and weather stuff and driving the stages as a young driver to get the experience as early as possible. And yeah, it was just a natural way of, Tommy was one of my biggest hero drivers next to Juha Kankkunen, and yeah, he just wanted me to be around, and obviously I really enjoyed the times to learn from one of the best drivers in the history of rallying.
Incredible times. At the same era, it seems you drove quite a lot of the old school Group N Lancers at that point in your career. Can you remember what you thought of them at the time, and the driving style that they required to get the most from them?
Well, I did my first 3 years with a real wheel drive car, and at that time I was 22 when I drove my first 21 when I drove my first four-wheel drive car, a Mitsubishi Evo 3. And at that time, that step from a rear-wheel drive car to a four-wheel drive car obviously was a big step because the driving style and everything changed. But now if you think where we are now, 14-year-old kids are driving four-wheel drive cars. So, okay, the world has changed a lot during these 20 odd years, but it was a big step. It needed a lot of kilometers and a lot of driving days to try and find a way. But I always felt more comfortable in a four-wheel drive car than a rear-wheel drive car. So, I can remember the first times I was ever driving, but when I was driving, there wasn't really any rally coaches coaching people like we have these days. So that's something I sort of would have needed maybe on the first years of my four-wheel drive career.
That's fascinating. I never considered about the sort of lack of professional rally coaching at the time. I think Pentti Erekala had some kind of driving school at some point in the 90s over here, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, he did. He had, but Pentti Erekala's way of driving was more like the 90s, 80s driving style, where you were really aggressive sideways and doing Scandinavian flicks, and where already then early 2000s, where the driving style was moving ahead, was more to drive with an understeer car, try to avoid sliding and going sideways, and just try to be as straight as possible in every moment of the stage. So Pentti's way of coaching wasn't maybe the best at that time.
Come the turn of the century, maybe it wasn't as relevant to especially the more advanced 2-liter World Rally cars with the likes of active differentials, and that smoother approach was definitely needed.
Yeah, surely. He was a great rally driver, and sure he was a great coach. I've met him obviously a few times, but I never had the chance to work with him. But I'm sure he was a great coach.
It's interesting you mentioned, that connection to Tommi Mäkinen at the time with the Mitsubishis. I guess for anyone getting into rallying at the time in your neck of the woods, everyone obviously wanted a Mitsubishi because of Tommi Mäkinen. I guess at that time, it was the only route to take, was it?
Maybe it was not the only route to take, but it was a really obvious route to take. Obviously, I saw the glory years of Mitsubishi, and if we now jump a few years ahead, when I then signed my first professional deal with Mitsubishi, obviously it was a big dream come true to join a great team, or something that was a great team. Because when I then joined the team, there was not really anything of the great team left, unfortunately. And thinking back, it's now easy to say that I maybe should have not signed the deal that I was offered at the time. But at the time, it was my first professional contract that I got. A dream come true for a young driver to get to get the works deal. So it was a good decision at the time, but thinking back, it was a bad decision.
Would that professional deal, presumably that was inked in 2003?
Yeah.
2003, presumably. And that was presumably off the back of your successful 2002 production WRC campaign as well.
Well, we made it. We made a deal with Andrew Cowan was still in charge of the team, but then the Germans, led by Sven Quandt and Mario Fornaris, they took over the team. So we made a deal for 2003 with Andrew to do Arctic Rally Sweden, New Zealand, and Germany with the old Step 2, and we were paying for that drive. But that changed then. After Sweden, or before New Zealand, I signed my deal already with Mitsubishi. In New Zealand, I made this pre-contract with Sven Quandt. So we didn't then pay for New Zealand or Germany at all. And by, I think, June, we signed the deal for 2004, and then I had the option for 2005.
Really interesting hearing sort of the sort of slightly murky politics going on at the time. It must have been quite a tricky world for a young up and coming rally driver to navigate at the time.
It was really tricky and really interesting, and something where I really would have need. I had my brother Mika was my manager, but obviously he was in Finland, and the time difference was 11 hours. And when I landed in New Zealand, Sven called me and asked me to come to his hotel. And I went to his hotel. I went to his room, and we had a chat. And then suddenly he put this paper in front of me saying he wants to make this pre-contract with you. But if you sign this contract, you are not you can't negotiate with any other team. And obviously, I was in sort of the breakthrough time of my career, and this is the thing that I'm a bit angry at myself now, looking back 20 years, because I maybe should not have signed the deal in the night. Because after the rally, I was really strong in New Zealand with the old car, and I got interest from other teams. After the rally, I got contacted by other works teams who might have been interested in my services, but obviously I was already tied up, so I could not do really anything. But yeah, these are things that happen in life, and everything happens in life for a meaning. So there must have been some point in me signing that paper, but I still don't know what the point is.
Hindsight's 2020, mate. You can't beat yourself up.
No, I can't. But it's it's still quite hard in a way to think about what might have been, and how my career went from that point on, and how my career could have been really different if I would have waited a bit and not been so excited and signed the document.
I know what I was just going to say. I mean, look, if anyone else is in your shoes, a young driver and a team like Mitsubishi putting a piece of paper in front of you, it's very difficult to say no to that, I guess. And I know, as I say, with hindsight, you can look back, but it would be very difficult, I guess, at the time to say no to it.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, when you're looking to be a professional driver to get the money to be able to support your family, you're traveling 250 plus days a year. So you have to find the money somehow to be able to support your family and your life, and that was my work at the time. And obviously, when you get the contract offer, and especially when it's the first one, you're really novice to everything. And I've always been sort of maybe a bit too of a kind person, if you know what I mean, and not ruthless enough in some way. So obviously, yeah, like I said, it was a dream come through, and should have just waited for a week, maybe. But yeah, it's easy to say now, 20 years later, that I should have waited a week.
Yeah, easier said, as you say. Yeah. New Zealand always appeared to be a round that you did well at, and did you enjoy it as much as the results reflect? Certainly in 2002, class win, and it looks like you had a great time driving there.
I really loved New Zealand, and I still love New Zealand as a country. Like you said, it was a strong rally for me. One reason maybe was because it's quite similar to Finland in a way that it's really fast. But what is then really different is the camber of the roads, and you really need to understand how the car moves and how you can use the camber to your benefit and really carry more speed. And I think one of my strong points as a driver was always that I was really committed driver, maybe a bit too aggressive, but my car handling was I know that my car handling was and still is on a really, really high level compared to anyone. Maybe the side that I wasn't really good at the time was patience. As a young driver, I was too eager to be fastest on every stage, and then you made stupid small mistakes, and that just cost you time. But yeah, New Zealand has always been one of my favorite rallies in the whole championship.
I realize I'm kind of jumping ahead here, and we should probably put a pin in it. But equally, since you raised it, what you mentioned, you were quite an aggressive driver. Is that one of the things that you find easiest to work up from when you are coaching an up and coming rally driver in the here and now? Are there certain traits that you kind of foreground and you're aware that you can build upon easier than others, and conversely that you sort of dread seeing because they're hard to sort of to play down, as it were?
Well, drivers I'm trying to work with these days, obviously the first, not rule, but the first point for me is that I want to work with drivers who want to try to become professionals. I don't want to work, I have nothing against, I take my hats off to every driver and gentleman drivers and everything. But, I've been doing this now for 10 years as my main and only work. And I want to work with drivers who have a clear goal. And when you find these drivers, you always quite easily also find in the first or second training, has this driver got the potential or has this driver not got the potential? And I've always said to all the drivers I work with, I'm gonna be dead honest with everything. I'm not gonna scratch your back only because I need the money, or I want to say that you are a good driver. If you're not a good driver, I'm gonna say you that sorry that you did this bad, or we can try to do this different, or we need to try to find a way. But if I see, let's say after 2 trainings, that this is just not gonna be something that I can work with, I think it's better for me to say honestly to him that sorry, I appreciate your driving, but I don't think I can make you be the driver that maybe you think you can be. And that has taken me quite big steps in my coaching in general over the years, being honest. I always give everything to every driver I work with that day from myself, not only my time, but also my experience and my skills, and to try and help them and try to develop the driver as much as I can. But for me, everything always starts with transparent discussions, open discussions, and 100% honesty. Because I know some people who do it a bit different than I do, but this is the way I have chosen to do the work, because they are paying quite big money for their driving, and they are paying obviously me to do the coaching. And if I'm there to only say, yeah, you're doing a great job, even if you're not, that would be not with my ethics or how I want to do my work.
That's really insightful. Thank you. I mean, I that must have, it must be fascinating learning, being able to tell so swiftly, as I'm sure you can, whether someone has what it takes. But also, it must have led to quite a few, maybe not awkward, but slightly tense exchanges at the end. After several sessions, saying, thank you, as you say, thank you for your driving, but I don't believe you have what it takes to do this professionally. I mean, yeah, that must have led to quite a few terse exchanges.
Yeah, actually, I think it hasn't really, because it doesn't mean that I've stopped working with the drivers, but it's just you need to choose your level, what you're aiming for, and obviously everyone has the dream to become world champion. I had a dream to become world champion. I was second in Group N at my time on a year that I should have actually won it easily, but that's another story. But I think honesty is something in general that our sport is missing. It's got a lot of politics, and I hate politics. And it's got a lot of bullshit, and I hate bullshit. So honesty for me is the only way that I see that you can really do the work, and you can really develop drivers. Like I said, I've been honest to a few drivers, but we have still continued to work together to try and improve the level that they are trying to achieve. Not to become, in WRC level, but to be in national level and win championships in national level, and that is enough for some drivers. So, I've never really destroyed anyone by saying that. Sorry, I don't think you have it. Don't get me wrong, but just to be honest and saying that I think you don't have it as a as a world champion of WRC, but you can be a really good driver.
Of course, thank you. I mean, to be fair, that is an astoundingly high bar. Let's face it, to be a WRC driver and would-be world champion. It stands to reason that the overwhelming majority of people just don't have that in them.
Yeah, and it is. Look, for me in like WRC these days, all the top drivers who are driving a hybrid car are really, really good drivers. And for me, the biggest difference is in the mental side. And I've said for years that, and already in my time, it was, for me, it's 70% mental and 30% is driving. Because all the drivers can drive, all the drivers these days can drive the same amount of kilometers because the testing is limited, which is not good. But anyway, testing is limited. So all are coming sort of from the same position to every rally. And then it's up to how you have done your homework, how you have prepared yourself for the rally, how you have kept yourself mentally and physically ready, and what is your mental state coming to the rally. Are you prepared and are you focused? Can you leave everything else and only focus in your work? Because the rally week is still the same as it was 20 years ago, but I think it's much more intense, and there's lots more work because of limited testing, and then a rush to do the recce and do the videos. In my time, there wasn't really any videos, but these days, all the drivers do videos. After recce, they watch videos the whole evening. Co-drivers are working until 2 or 3 o'clock in the night, correcting the notes, getting ready for the next day. It's where we are now and where we were 20 years ago. It's the same sport, but it's so different.
Yeah, you raise a valid point. It's almost like, because obviously the weekend format is largely unchanged, even though the routes and the stage length is shorter, but the weekend for the crews and the teams is almost much more busier now, despite the actual competitive stage mileage being, in some cases, very dramatically shorter. But in terms of the mental load the driver has to take on, there's a much more added to it.
Yeah, like Tuesday, Wednesday, when the recce is, like for Gus, first day, he comes around 6. They start doing video work around 7. They do it for a few hours, and then we go to eat, and then next morning they leave at 5, and then he comes at, let's say, 2 o'clock. We do video until 6, and there is some PR stuff. And you don't really get to relax at all. You don't really get to switch off at all, and that is something that with Gus, when we started to work, he was on the videos all the time. Now he's grown up and he's much more experienced, so we have sort of downshifted a lot of the time we work on videos, because, like I said, 70% from the performance is mental, and if you are constantly only working on notes and watching videos, trying to improve, trying to learn during the rally week, but also between rallies, you're watching the videos 24/7, basically trying to learn the stages by heart. You don't allow your brain to relax. You don't allow your mind to switch off and do something completely different. At some point, you will just collapse because your brain is full. You can't take anything in, and you can't really get anything out because you have blocked all your souls, all your how do you say, the channels of your mental side.
That's incredible. I mean, have you found that are the drivers the youngsters that you are teaching now, do you find they're more adept at dealing with this kind of onslaught of information because of the wider world that they've been raised in, like digitally, for want of a better word? Whereas, I don't know, guys back in the day that perhaps you started coaching 10, 12 years ago that would have not have been raised in this kind of online world. Do you find that kids that are 17, say now, who have only known digital and videos and everything else, are they more adept at sort of finding their way and sort of processing it?
Yeah, that's my youngest drivers that I coach at the minute is 12. and then the next one is 14. And obviously they have grown from their youth. They have grown into this digital world. So yeah, they are much more not open, but they are ready. You don't have to tell them anything. They actually teach me what to do and where to go and how to find information. And then if you have like drivers who are, let's say, in the late 30s or mid 30s, you have to tell them where to find and what to do and how to do. So, you know, I've learned myself during these last 4 years when what has happened in the world with all this flu and stuff. I've started streaming and I've started playing simulators. I have a nice sim at home. I do streaming in Twitch. I play rally games. I do online, pre-shows and after rally reviews, and something that I would never have thought I would, like 5 years ago, if somebody would have told that you have a simulator at home, you're streaming to YouTube, you're streaming to Twitch on your off time, and you're a professional rally coach. Okay, the rally coach, I would have said, okay, that's fine. But all the rest, I would have said, never in a million years would I be doing this, what I'm doing now.
Speaking of, passing on your experience to that younger crowd coming through, to go back to 2004, you were partnered with Kai Lindstrom when you started your career at Mitsubishi. Did you find that was like a very much a mentor type role? Because obviously he had so much experience with Tommy Mäkinen, and he'd been rallying, a long time at a top level. Did you find he imparted a lot of knowledge to you that now you try and pass down to the younger generations as well?
Yeah, hugely. Kai was a big help. Unfortunately, our work at Mitsubishi ended far too early because I think we deserved to continue for 2005, but we drove in Finnish Championship and some WRC events as a privateer 2005. But the work that we sort of had a 3-year plan, me, Kai, and Lasse Lampi. But unfortunately, what happened at Mitsubishi at the time, politics was in a too strong position, and politics ended basically my career because, what happened at Mitsubishi should never have happened. And I've said this all in a Finnish interview, but I can also say it obviously here.
Please do.
I think the people in charge of Mitsubishi at the time, they only didn't destroy Mitsubishi as a works team. They also destroyed me, Danny Sola, and Gigi Galli's career in a way, because they completely left us alone, and basically we were made responsible for something that we were not responsible of, and that rally world is really cruel. When you get through to this place that you are a hired works driver, it's a bit different to these days, but at the time you had really one shot, and I had my shot, and I thought I did a good job. The car only broke all the time, but then politics came into the game, and that ended my career at Mitsubishi. I'm not, it was a great time to be a works driver. Obviously, I have some bad feelings of stuff that happened at the time, but it's part of life. I still had a great career after that, but I think my skills and what I was as a driver should have been the results, and my career should have been longer in WRC level. That's honestly what I think, that me as a driver should have what things should have happened for me were very different to how they went.
Would it be fair to say that, in your opinion, that had the German branch not acquired Rally Art, say, from Andrew Cowan, that under Andrew Cowan's watch it would have been quite different, do you think? Or would things have gone a similar way regardless?
Very different, I'm sure. I knew Andrew. He was a great gentleman, a great team boss. I knew him since 98. Obviously, he was running the team 2003. 100%. And then the Germans took over from the Japanese people, and even Andrew was sort of quite harshly sidelined, as was Lasse Lampi. So I think what they did, unfortunately, was that they tried to do something really clever, but it ended up destroying a lot of history of rallying that was built up, was destroyed completely.
And a lot of people's careers to boot, and not just your own, but many of the staff, obviously, that had been working at Rally at Europe for years, and a team, as you say, with a lot of history and heritage, and it was also, it added to the sport entering a bit of a downward time, I think, afterwards as well.
Yeah, I think if you look back how it all was, because I was part of the team already 2003, and 2002. I knew what was coming and what they had designed and what was the plans. And when these people who then designed the car and stuff, they wanted to reinvent a bicycle, because we had certain stuff ready already in the pipeline for 2004, 2003, early 2003 for 2004 car. And it was all sidelined, and they wanted to redesign everything. And if you think that we start testing for 2004 season properly in August, September, how on earth do you think you are ready for Monte Carlo with 3.5 months of testing? So basically what we did was that the first 6 months of the year, we were testing in the rallies we entered, which is in a way incredible. Mitsubishi pulled out 2003 from the championship officially, because they wanted to build a car that would be competitive. And I think they had a quite good plan, but it was all then thrown into the bin and everything was redesigned. And if you look at the car that we have, if you would open the bonnet of that car, and you would open the bonnet of the 307, you could not say which car is which. And there is a clear reason for that, because the person who designed the 2004 Mitsubishi was working at Peugeot before he joined Mitsubishi. And he was working also, I think, in the 307 in some way or another, because everything was basically done to the team as it was done in Peugeot Sport. And clearly just didn't work the way it should have worked. I was a young driver, and if I would be the person I'm now, if I could turn 20 years back and have what I'm now, the year would still have been very different, because, like I said earlier, I was too kind. I was listening, and I was doing what people were saying to me to do, instead of holding my own position as a driver, and what I knew that I needed from the car, or what I wanted setup wise, or whatever I wanted. I never actually got to do as I wanted it to be done, as the people who were running the team thought that, you are just a young driver, blah, blah, blah. You don't have the experience, blah, 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 even if I did. Which is shame in a way, but that's life.
Well, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you it must have been a very, very difficult time, because, as you said, you must have had, being a young driver, you didn't have the clout to be able to have your knowledge listened to, I assume. What would you say the biggest weakness of that 04 Lancer was in comparison to its rivals?
Everything.
Fair,
okay.
The chassis of the car was actually really good. The car had lots of potential, but like I said, if you try to invent a bicycle that has been invented again in 3.5 months to prepare for a new season, it will just never work. Compared to all the other work teams, they were testing the new cars for a year even maybe, year and a half before they came to the championship. And yeah, it was, they were spending so much money, and like I said, we went to rallies to do testing, and I did 5 rallies, and I retired in 4 rallies, not because of my own mistake. And Finland, I had a really, I went a bit wide, yeah, but it's something that was because of the car handling, and it ended a rally that I was doing a really good rally up to that time, because at like Rally Finland time, the car was starting to be okayish, much more competitive. But like I said, we used the first 6 months to do the testing in a rally for stuff that the engineers had managed to improve or develop the car through the time that we were doing the rallies. So you need at least, for me, you need at least a year to develop a car to be ready to drive for the championship.
I was going to say, presumably the following year in 05, you got a chance to sort of test some benchmarks because you drove a Focus WRC, the Step 2 Lancer, and an S10 Impreza. Were you able to sort of compare these cars to the Lancer WRC? Was it apparent the difference back at the time?
Yeah, of course. I had all the experience of the 04 Mitsubishi. I drove the 02 Focus. Like you said, I drove the S10 Subaru, and the S10 Subaru was in a completely different league to the 2004 Mitsubishi that I drove last. I knew for 2005 the car would have been much more competitive, because the stuff that we should have had already for 2004 then came into the 2005 car. And at the time, the car was improved. The car had improved a lot for 2005. And I sort of thought that I had a contract for 2005. But then, like I said, politics jumped in and took it away. But yeah, even the 2002 Focus, I think, was quite close performance-wise to the 04 Mitsubishi that I last drove.
Wow, that's fairly damning.
You must have gelled quite well with the Subaru in comparison, because in 06 you had a fantastic result in the S11 Impreza in Sardinia. That must have been a great event for you to kind of find some form after with a couple of tough years in the Mitsubishis, to get behind the wheel of a much more competitive car, I imagine.
Yeah, 2006 was a year that I've sort of, or my team decided, that I was working at the time, decided that this is the last chance that I'm going to have in the World Rally Championship level. And we did. We planned to do Sweden, Sardinia, and Finland. And in Sweden, we were, I think, 5th overall when the engine broke. It was a really strong rally for us. I think we could have ended up in 4th place, but unfortunately, end of day 2, the engine broke on after Hagfors Super Special on the road section. Sardinia, yes, we finished overall 6th, but it wasn't. It was a good rally result-wise. 6th is a good result, but I wasn't happy with my performance in Sardinia, because I knew that I should have been at least 4th overall, but I made few mistakes on my own, and we had some issues with tires. At the time, you had these tires with Moose. What is it called?
Run flats.
Run flats, yeah. And the run flats at the tires that we were having were not really working that well. Or they were working well, but it was really hard to drive, because there was so much. The car was shaking because the run flat didn't work as it was designed to work, and we had some issues with tires in the rally. So we didn't get the result we wanted. I think 4th should have been our result there, but we ended up 6th. And then Rally Finland, again, I think we just moved to 5th place. The rally started a bit slow, but then we just moved, I think, 5th or 6th overall. and then the engine went. And that was the first rally actually that I sort of got the work spec engine map from ProDrive for the rally. And unfortunately, the engine there was some kind of a issue with in the mold of the engine, and one pipe came loose, and then the engine just after one stage it just died on the finish line. And that was the first time I've actually ever cried in a rally car, because I knew that was most likely the end of my professional career if miracles didn't happen, because it was really expensive at the time to be a privateer, like it is these days as well. But you can't spend all the money that you have earned in driving rally, even if how much you love the sport. You can't keep on spending huge money in. And it was obviously a big thing for the engine to go, because I thought that if we would have finished high in Sweden and then Sardinia and Finland, we would have been in a strong place to negotiate for a good work drive for 2008. That was my strong belief. 2007. That was my strong belief.
Thank you again for being so candid and open with us. I mean, it sounds, like you went through the mill. I worry, I don't want to dwell too much on rubbish Mitsubishi WRC cars, but in 2007 you got to sample effectively the final WRC Lancer in Finland. What was the 05 car like? Could you feel that it had improved since the previous one, or the last time?
Yeah. First of all, I think John Easton was running the team. He was a big part of Mitsubishi Rally Europe, and I still need to thank John for the chance he gave to me with that car for Rally Finland, because we made a really special deal. It would never have been possible without him. And obviously the car was. I went to Myra actually on the summer of, I think, June time. And I drove
2 minutes
from
Myra now.
Okay. I drove the car in Myra for half a day, and it was a big step performance-wise overall. What they had done with the car. Okay, it was not maybe developed anymore, but still for 2007 it was really close for Mitsubishi to be still a semi-works team with some of these sponsorship deals from the Middle East that they were negotiating, and it was actually really close for it to happen. I think it was really close actually to happen, but for some reason it didn't happen. So they had done some development work on the car, and it was a really good car. It wasn't a winning car, but it was surely a easy top 5 car. And unfortunately, that rally week was one of the biggest mistakes I did in my whole career, because I built myself mentally, and I destroyed myself mentally before the rally on that week, or preparing for the rally, by pushing myself and saying to everyone that this is the absolute last chance. I will prove myself, and I will prove you all how good of a rally driver I am. And I was mentally in, like I said, 70% is mental, 30% is driving. And I put myself in a position that all the sensors, all the brain veins were completely blocked, and I just made stupid mistakes in shakedown, in first stage, in second stage, because I was just a walking time bomb, if I can, you know what I mean. Can't really find maybe the right words, but I completely F-ucked myself that week mentally, because I was, I had Urmo Aba as my teammate. I have Juho Hänninen as my teammate. And in the first stage, proper stage. I started really well. I was fastest of us all, but then I made a silly mistake. I hit the rock, and then we spun, and then the steering arm actually broke in the second to last corner, and we had a really big off. But mentally, I just lost it and cooked it like well done steak was something that I was before the rally started.
That sounds pretty rough, Kristian, and I again appreciate your honesty about the situation at the time. How did you find you dealt with that going forward from there then to kind of get back behind the wheel once more next year and push on from there?
I thought that everything ended actually, to be honest, on that day. I went, obviously, Finnish media wanted to hear from me, and I went to the studio and sort of collapsed mentally as well in that interview because I thought that it was end of my career. That was the very last chance, and I completely made a big mess out of it. And in a way, it stopped my professional career in WRC because after that, for 7 years, I didn't drive a single rally in WRC. I drove only in Finnish Championship. I worked with Tommi Mäkinen 2 years. That ended mid 2010. Then I didn't do any rallies for 11, 12, 13. And then 2014, I sort of made some kind of a comeback. But that then didn't go as planned, but still I had a really good time and enjoyed driving again. But 3 years break was quite rough. I can tell you that.
But I guess on a more positive note, as with one door closing, another door opened, and you've built this successful coaching business now that working with some really top level up and coming drivers. What made you decide to move away from driving then to focus on this coaching business, and what was your kind of opening for that to find your niche in there, as it were?
Well, I've always been a driver who has always analyzed everything really thoroughly. Was it video? Was it data? I think I was really good in giving feedback, or still am, because I still drive quite often. And I sort of always had the feeling that there's a lot for me to give to the sport, and rally was the sport that I loved. Rally was the sport that I wanted to be part of. And if it could not be driving, I wanted to be in the sport somehow. And coaching was at the time really, really something that nobody really did. It still is quite new, but it's now getting more and more popular. With drivers realizing that there are people who can actually help drivers become better drivers and make some shortcuts in not having to do all the mistakes that we might have done. So it was a clear way to try and be part of the sport. It started really small. I was coaching actually in Russia for a few years. I had the driver there we won the championship in Russia for 2 years, and then he wanted me to do some driving, and that ended up in me driving 2014 in these 3 rallies with Ken Rees owned car that was run by Autotech in Sweden, Finland, and Estonia. So yeah, it was clear that I want to be in the sport, and I really like coaching. It's my dream work now, actually. So I wanted to be part of the sport, and coaching was something that I loved. So that was the decision I made at the time, that this is the way I'm going to go now.
I mean, it must, nothing else, be really rewarding being able to. I mean, it sounds like you went through a lot of bullshit in your career, politics wise, and it must be liberating being able to pass on your knowledge to other people and how to avoid that bullshit.
Yeah, it is. I'm still match fit. I've said to many people, I drove a Rally 2 Skoda Evo a few weeks back. And I think I'm driving actually now faster than I ever was in my career because I've got some brain. And I understand what it takes to be fast. what is important, what is not important, what you should focus in your driving, and what you shouldn't focus in your driving. So in a way, I think I'm now 45, so maybe I'll do a comeback in the next few years. You never know what will happen, but I surely think that I could still do it as a driver. But I try to avoid these. I drive nearly in every coaching event, not with Gus, but with every other driver I coach. I'm always driving myself, and they are sitting next to me. Just there are times when I want to try or the driver wants me to drive the car to do some work with the setup, or he wants me to try and show him something that I'm trying to explain him, but it's easier sometimes to show. So it's interesting also to be able to drive these late generation Rally 2 cars, as I think they are much faster than the World Rally cars that I did my time 20 years ago. They are much faster. So it's good to be on top of the game with the drivers you are working with. And Rally 1 cars, I know them from last year with Gus at M Sport. I know the Rally 1 cars as well. So it's good to have the knowledge of every level car that the drivers are using, who you are working with.
Would you say when you're confronted with a new driver, is it easier to work with a driver who is overconfident than it is someone who's underconfident, for want of a better word? Is it easier to sort of round off the edges and sort of dial someone back than it is to sort of build someone up further? I phrase that terribly.
I know what you mean. You can make a fast driver reliable, but you cannot make a slow driver fast.
That's kind of
what I mean.
Absolutely succinct. Yeah.
Save that soundbite.
Is it mental side or is it driving wise? You can always make the edges of the diamond not so sharp and me be more productive and focus in the right things. But if you don't have the diamond, it's like I said earlier, at some times you need to be quite ruthless and tell them that I have nothing against you. I'm sure you're going to have a great career, but I don't think that you have what it takes to be in the top level.
But I guess it must be important to manage people's expectations as well, because as you rightly say, on the mental level for any of us in life, that if you're setting yourself up so high, then and you can't achieve those levels, then when you don't achieve it's going to force you lower down rather than finding your level.
Yeah, look, the sport we are part of is really expensive, and if you have the money, or you are from your own pocket, or you are working with sponsors who are paying for it, you should always be honest to yourself and to your sponsors who are doing or who are making it possible for you to drive. You can promise them whatever, but your promises need to be realistic, and you need to be honest in what you are telling them, what they are getting, or what are you trying to do. I know unfortunately, quite many people in the world driving rally who are making a big thing about them being, if it would be possible, I would be there and I should be there, but for some reason I'm not, and I think it's unfair. And these kind of comments, they just make me laugh, because like I said, everything happens for a reason, and there is a reason why someone is there and somebody is not. You can have all the money in the world, but it doesn't mean you can drive the car. My background was, when I was young, my family background was quite wealthy, and not only because my father was the president of Finnish ASN, but also because of the financial possibilities I had in my early years of my career, before I sort of said to my dad and my family company that I want to manage everything on my own. I got so much bullshit and mental teasing, bullying, because of I had the chance financially. But still, you need to remember that you need to drive the car from start to finish. Nobody's going to do it for you. Even if you have millions, it doesn't mean that you are going to be the fastest driver in the world. And, you know, there are some stories even nowadays that people are saying that if I would have this and that chance, I would do this and that. And for me, it just doesn't click, because you need to be honest. For me, that's, like I said, in my coaching, and maybe I'm a bit too honest at times, but honesty is very important part of my life.
You can't buy a stage time after all.
No, you can't.
I've got my flights booked now. I mean, conversely, it must be. Have you ever experienced, you know, coached a driver, or are you coaching a driver, and you're aware that they are shit hot and they have the potential to really go places? You know, that must be incredibly exciting to be there at the ground floor, for want of a better term.
Yes, I have drivers, and like I said earlier, I'm trying to work with drivers who have a clear goal. And I have this 14-year-old kid, Isak Hatanmaa from Finland. And for me, he's the next Kalle Rovanperä in as a driver, as a talent. How much effort and how much work he's putting into his career. There's another one called Lauri Halonen, who is starting his driving in rally next year, and the work he has been doing the last year is amazing. Of notes training, like consistent notes training, consistent drive training, just working in the overall picture. And then obviously one of my main drivers, or main driver at the moment, sorry, my main driver Gus. Obviously he has the financial situation, which is quite good, but Gus is a really talented driver who can and deserves to be in the top level because of his driving skills and his overall performance as he is as a driver. I think this year was really good for us. We didn't get the result we wanted mainly because of Rally Finland, unfortunate rock in the junction left that destroyed the rally. That started a bit difficult for us, but then day two he started to perform on the level that I knew he could do. His favorite stage actually of the rally, and that sort of destroyed this year's championship. Okay, we had some other issues through the year, but I think what we decided for this year to step back to WRC2 was a really smart decision, because he had a really difficult, unfortunate years in previous years at M Sport. So his performance has not really, for me, it's not yet been measured as a driver, and I know what he can do. But again, like I have had in my early career, he's faced a bit of these same issues because of something that he can't really do anything about. He's really fortunate to be in the place where he is, but still you need to drive the car from start to finish, and you need to finish the rallies. And I think Gus has shown this year what a great driver he is, and what a great future he can and will have in this sport when everything clicks. And this has been a very important year in building his confidence and enjoying rallying, because everything starts that, not only in rallying but in general in life, or the work you do. You need to enjoy your work, and your work needs to be fun, because if it's not fun, if you don't enjoy it, if you don't laugh, it's never going to work. And late Craig Breen was a very good example of that. And the wise words he said, yeah, I will never forget that man. He was a good example of how you should believe in yourself and never let anyone put you down, because you know how good you are as a driver.
Very
Amen.
wise words indeed.
think we lost one of the best ambassadors to our sport.
Yep, we did, and a good friend.
And you know, this year for Gus, I mean, it was a close run thing for you guys. You know, I mean, on that unfortunate retirement in Finland. I mean, look, you know, it's Andreas's second WRC2 title, but I think, as you say, rightfully, a fantastic year for Gus and Jonas in that Talksport car. I think it did look, from the outside looking in, certainly it seemed like a good decision for Gus to step away from that M Sport environment, and he seemed, you know, from watching Rally TV or WRC Plus, whatever, which one it's called now, but he seemed to be in a better place in that car, you know, and it was borne out by the results for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it was a very different working environment to what it was a few years working at Sport. Don't get me wrong, Sport was a great team. There's some great girls and boys working in the team, but the team was just not supporting maybe the drivers as it should have been. They were trying to do their best, but you know, there were just some things didn't go as they should have gone, and I think the step back to Talksport, no pressure, not so much media work, more focusing on the job, being able to build the car as you want and build the team around you as you want was a big game changer for Gus and his year. And I think we learned a lot this year, and I know we continue to work together, but where we are going to work next year is still a bit of a thing that I'm working on actually as we speak. So maybe in the next week we have some news coming out, but at the minute it's still something we're working on.
We'll stay tuned then.
We surely will.
Kristian, I know you're tight on time, so we'll wrap this up. But I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time and your honesty throughout this whole chat, and wishing you and your business and the very, very best for the future. I'll be continuing to have a look at those Twitch videos post events, and hopefully we can talk again at some point soon.
Thank you for having me on your show, and yeah, it would be great to talk at some point. And I hope all your listeners liked my honesty. Like I said, I'm an honest man, and honesty hurts sometimes, but like I said, that's the only way that I want to live my life, being honest and open and a happy person.
Thank you for being so unflinching.
There's certainly worse ways to live.
There surely are.
Well, like I said, thank you so much for your time. So we'll let you go, and the very best of luck with the coming weeks with the new baby on the way. I'm sure you'll have your hands full, not thinking about stuff outside of rallying anyway, for a change.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
All the best, Kristian.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
You too, boys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Jamie, that was a great chat with Kristian. I think we won't find many as honest that we'll interview, maybe perhaps as that. Got a lot of insight, a lot of fascinating info on both his career and stuff, interesting things that were happening around the time of that Mitsubishi era or the end of Mitsubishi. What do you think of that?
I absolutely couldn't agree more. I mean, I can't thank Kristian enough, really, for being so unflinching and unvarnished in his answers. I'm sure I speak for every listener here. It's fascinating getting a sort of guided inside line on a period of rally history that I think most of our fans probably cherish and you know, view with the same kind of mixed emotions as he does, albeit not quite as pronounced because we weren't there living it in the same way he was. But yeah, you know, really interesting. Quite emotional, I dare say, as well. You know, I'm not ashamed to admit that I was certainly really invested and yeah. But equally, you know, it's a man who's clearly at peace with himself and loves what he's doing and loves his life and is still really heavily personally involved with the sport at its sharp end. So yeah, and let's face it, it looks like 2024 is going to be a really exciting time for him and his involvement in the sport. So yeah,
For sure. Likewise, we'll have to keep a close eye on those events going forward. So maybe we've got an early access to some Gus Greensmith developments in the coming weeks, perhaps. Once again, I'm Killian Cronin. This has been Rally DNA, joined by
Jamie Arkle.
And we'll be back to you very, very soon with a special episode about the Roger Albert Clark Rally. Thanks very much once again for listening, and goodbye.